Evaluation Subcommittee meeting. It is 7:00 p.m. We will begin with roll call. Bill?
Here.
Cheryl?
Here.
And Michelle, I'm here. If you please stand, so we'll lead us in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so how would you like to proceed?
So the way that we've done it in the past is we've actually gone through and basically looked at the scores and basically added those up and then taken an average.
Okay.
So, and then what we do is we sort of go through the comment section and pull out things that we think are reportable.
Okay.
And then these are all public documents, so anybody can actually review them at any time. But that's typically how we do it. So if we want to start with, the overall, the summative evaluations, and then we'll go to the performance goals. We'll just kind of rank them out. Do you have a simple piece of paper?
Yeah.
So I can keep the score. It can be anything. So, first evaluation, we've got instructional leadership, management operations, family community engagement, professional culture, with proficient in all of those. So if you do over one, proficient. And then if we do the same thing for reviewer 2.
All proficient.
All proficient as well. And then reviewer 3.
Exemplary. Yep, so that's right there.
Okay. This is the one that says superintendent.
Yep, and then the minus after that. And then one
So,
Okay. Got it. So I'm just gonna find research.
And then the next is proficient.
or proficient.
And then the next is proficient.
Proficient.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Proficient.
I'm a little foggy today. So just walk me through this one more time. So we can do this.
And the last is exemplary. Okay, so these are groups. So the first one belongs to this evaluator.
We only had 6 reviewers?
Cheryl has hers, she brought hers with her.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and then the next one starts here.
She was right, she was for you.
Okay. So we have,
And then the next one
Copies
starts
on
here.
the
Yeah, and so we're just going through the summative and looking at to see how he rated.
Yeah.
Do you want some pizza?
no, thank you. Thank you, I'm good. Cheryl, do you have your review?
No, I don't.
Oh, you didn't bring yours?
I have it empty.
Oh, okay.
I'll stay here till midnight.
Okay.
Finish it.
All right. So the next is performance goals. So this is overall. This is performance goals. And we've got, I'm going to rank them just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So there's two district improvement goals, so you could just add another category to that. not everybody.
So the first one was the student learning goal, and that was grades 3 through 6, MCAS scores going from 42 to 50%, meeting or exceeding expectations. We got closer to it, but we didn't hit it. So I gave him some progress on that. Equity audit, everything that was listed on the equity audit that was, that we brought up was initiated, so I gave him that on that. Next was the MTSS, and John's notes were actually pretty good on all of this, because he gave us a summary and all this, so basically graded himself, but MTSS, the same thing, we made significant progress, but the work isn't done yet, so I gave him significant progress on that. And then finally, the district website, I put exceeded. I thought that the website is fantastic, such an improvement. So if we move on, I'm just gonna rank them as did not exceed as a 1, some progress is a 2, significant progress is a 3, 4 is met, 5 is exceeded.
So now we're on this, now we're on.
Does it have a page number?
No.
No?
4,
So now we're looking at
3, and 5.
this section.
Right here.
Yeah, this is, so
And
this
who
one,
is this for?
who did this one?
Yeah.
I did this one.
Okay. So.
Okay, so I did, for student learning, so significant progress. Professional goals, met. Ours is different. Ours is different, isn't it? Am I reading the right thing?
They have an order.
Oh wait, maybe I'm reading off the wrong one. Maybe mine's different.
No, is it also, is it this
It's
two-sided?
cut off.
Two-sided? Oh, that's what it is, it's two-sided. It's two-sided, Michelle? But not in the regular?
Mine's not too.
So I think. Oh yeah, it's cut off, that's why. Okay, that's okay, because I think mine wasn't, I don't think I gave an exceeded then, but see,
Oh, I see what
That's
you're
why.
saying.
so yeah, this is
I
just,
scanned them, so we maybe,
I think just the
But just that
last,
last
yeah,
one is
which
cut
on mine is okay, I think.
Should we, write it in it, just in case?
I have the hard copies, let me go.
No, I mean.
You can see all the scores.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see all the scores, so there's nothing that's
So
missing.
3, 4, 3, 4.
3, 4, 3, 4.
So, because Bill ranked this, 1 was do not meet, 1 point, some progress is 2 points,
Yeah.
significant progress is 3.
Oh,
and
so
that
we
is
just
4.
put the X's.
Yeah, so then this is how I read it,
So
The student learning goal. and then I graded the professional practice. Okay, so the next one, exceed. So, yeah.
So this is,
Mhm.
This is instructional leadership.
So now we're still in the performance goals. So now so now we're on the next evaluator, so we're looking here to see how they scored.
So, I didn't realize that this was the process we used, because I thought we had a discussion on each, so public could hear our reason.
So I think we determined how
We do it.
we handle it, but I think just we're looking at the scoring, just to see how he rated, and then I think we'll discuss the comments that were
Okay.
made, and then we'll put
Yeah.
something together.
Yeah,
As
because
like a
I
recording.
wouldn't want us to just.
No,
down
yeah,
to
we're gonna go
X's
back.
and
We're just-
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah,
yeah, we're just giving we're just doing a numerical scoring
Okay, thank
to
you.
start. next one, Sean's is,
So what, are we on this one still?
He was exceeded
it's a little bit
on 3, but he has 6.
disjointed. Yeah,
So these are the, yeah, so we're looking at,
Oh, I see,
Yeah.
don't know,
Yeah, I guess I was thinking that the comments would be there.
right, we're gonna go over that,
Okay.
yeah.
so it's for, you didn't really
Hit
address
5.
each goal.
Right.
It's kind of. Family. Gotta review it. Fine. I don't.
It's not, it doesn't align with
No,
what
it
the goals
doesn't.
are versus how he
Yeah, I
used
don't
the
know why.
description in the work.
Yeah, I don't know why he put that.
Mhm.
All right, well, let's move on to 4 and then we'll come back to it. Lisa.
So 3, 4, 3, 4.
Show me your one.
So now here, when
Lisa,
and
okay.
then so then now we're looking at the superintendent performance goals and we're looking at how she rated.
Okay.
Yeah. If you want, do you want to separate each person's out so it's easier to do that? Just do that. I'm just gonna separate these out. Okay. So this one also is.
This is you're looking at Rich's now.
Yeah, so
Okay.
4 4s.
Is there any more? Yeah, the same thing here. This is more than that. I filled out, yeah.
Is Mike,
And that's not done.
and that is
It's empty.
empty. Well, I don't know if it's empty.
I think he went on to do, to rate each section, but he just didn't do that page.
Alright, so Mike and Sean, is gonna put an asterisk next to those two review comments. Alright,
Yeah, yeah, whatever, you come up with a focus on.
Here, so based on the goal, so the
Mhm.
goal that he put for this student learning goal would go here, what was the goal? And then what focus indicators were used
Mhm.
would go here, and then here's just a chart.
Let me see.
So, and there's 4 goals, so there was, MTSS, the equity audit,
Yeah, I
MCAS,
saw that.
and district website, were the 4.
For each person.
Just for each, so this was, MCAS.
Right,
This
right,
was-
but
yeah.
I mean, for each of us in our packet,
Yes.
we do those for.
Yes, yes.
so, next one is, the performance rating for standard 1, instructional leadership. And we have A, B, C, D, E. F is not included. So in the ranking, we have A through F. So we'll just do,
Why is is F not included?
on here.
The student learning indicator does not have corresponding descriptions of practice, evidence of impact on student learning based on multiple measures of student team growth and achievement must be taken into account when determining performance rating for the standard.
Okay.
So, for those rankings, those threes across the board. And then Michelle,
Did you
yours
say,
is
did you say Ps or Es?
P.
Ps.
three, Ps or threes. That's what it comes down to, Ps or threes.
I did the same.
Okay. Three. Okay.
The next one is
And we leave off F, right?
correct. The next one is,
Four.
4, 3, 4, and then gave the 4
Three.
for the overall.
Overall, yeah.
You got this one here?
Yes, we're still in instructional leadership.
No, this is standard two managerial observations.
Yeah, we're not there yet. We're going through each person's, yeah, so we're still at the instructional
Oh, I see.
leadership. Yeah, All threes.
That was Lisa,
yeah,
her overall, three.
yeah.
Mhm.
So now I'm looking at Rich, so we're still
Go,
on,
go to Lisa. No,
Oh.
Lisa.
no, we're still on this, we're still on this page for everybody.
Okay,
Mhm.
so I put down Ps all the way down.
If you want to, yeah. Yeah, into this one.
Isn't that the one?
That's,
Yeah, I see.
Rich. Threes.
yeah, and 3 overall.
And then Mike was the last one.
Okay, so he's 3, 4, 4, 3, 4, and then overall 4.
3, 4, 3,
Yep.
4,
Oh, no, sorry, start again.
3.
Yep.
4. 3, 4,
3,
3.
4.
3, 4, 3, 4.
Overall, 4.
Yes.
Okay.
Is that 3, 4, 3, 4?
Yep. Oh, this is, we're still not here yet. We're still doing the same one.
Okay, this is fun. Where do I find that piece of paper?
Okay.
It's right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I already filled this out.
Yeah, but we're reading everyone's results.
Oh. And who do I have that?
All right, so, for standard 2,
Now we're on this one.
which is management and operations,
All 3.
3, 3, 3, all threes and overall 3.
Okay, I know, I just read this one.
So,
Next one is 3 threes,
yep, 4. And then the rest 3s. 3, 3, 3.
3, 3,
Are we on engagement?
3, 3.
3, 3,
That was what should be,
overall.
the overall should be 3.
Are we on engagement?
No,
No,
not yet.
management and operations, so
We should have. So what was it? 3, 3, 3, 3.
Yeah, so this would be, yeah, if you want to rate proficient.
3, 4, 3, 3, 4, 4,
What are we looking at?
management and operations. Sean's is like,
It, you know,
it's different.
I don't think he followed the goals.
Yeah, but even his,
Yeah.
even his sheet is different. He's got like an old sheet.
I wonder if he pulled from the last evaluation,
He may have,
because that was in, I saw that in my folder.
yeah. Cause he doesn't have. Hang on.
Am I actually on any of these?
one like Bill, Michelle, Sean, just so it'll be easier, and the one side is we can just flip.
Thank you. But I'm not doing them all, right?
No,
I'm just doing
you're just doing your, yes.
the John's thread.
Yep, you're just.
Thank you for doing that.
Budget operations, 5, no, 6, right? All threes.
Okay, so I got all of John's.
So 2
You are Rich. Yeah.
is, yeah,
Oh.
actually,
Bridge.
this is,
What were you saying about Bridges? I had the original, this is
Oh,
the
yeah.
original.
So the comments, I wonder, are his comments the same with everyone?
Maybe not, maybe.
Yeah, they're the same.
Yeah.
Oh, they are, okay, so this is the one you sent me.
okay.
Given my limited introduction. Okay,
Yeah, we'll take it.
at least it's the original one that, because there was somebody who didn't.
Yeah, no, you're right, so 4, 3, 3, 4, 4, 4, 4, okay. And now Lisa. And 2 is 3. And then Rich.
Which?
He's, 3s all the way. So we're still at, we're just scoring, so looking to see. So there's nothing really to follow on that, we're still just compiling the numbers.
Yeah, I haven't even put them in, so.
And finally, Mike.
4, 4, 3, 4, 3.
Four. All right, next is
Family and community.
family community. So this is 3, 1. Next one.
Wait a second.
3s all the way. I know they're all 3.
Sean, 4,
4, 4,
3,
3, 4.
I'm doing this right. This would be,
Yep, so this is what,
trying to put down.
this is what Rich wrote, yeah.
Do we already reach?
No, we're not there yet.
3, 3. And Mike, 3s. Wait, I'm missing
Rich, did you do Rich?
Rich.
He's 3s all the way.
3 all the way.
And then Mike is, 3 and then 4s all the way down.
4, 4, 4, 4. And then finally Stan, 4. Social and culture,
There's 6, 7 total.
7 total, yeah. So it should be 3, 3, 4. 3, 3, 3, 3. And then this one, 3, 3, 3, 4, 3.
it should be actually, after the 4 should be another 4, and then 3, 3. I did 2 boxes,
Oh,
but
okay.
I changed it to the 4.
For. You ready now, right? Sean is 4, 4, 4, 4, 3, 4.
And Lisa is all, she's 3 solid.
Yeah, this is 10 boxes.
Rich 3, all the way down. Where else? Sarah Dawson.
And then like,
3, 4, 4, 4, 3, 3, 4. So now we've finished the scoring.
So I think copy yours.
Sure.
Thank you.
You have all them, so you have everyone's score. So this is, you can look at everybody's evaluation, so this is the evaluator.
Right. I have them all.
The highlighter? Yeah.
Can you look up and make sure it is still in the
I think you're okay.
so now if we sum up, we average. We're gonna start off. With our overall scores.
So we're just looking at this overall summative performance, step 1 and step 2.
And does it matter, does it matter which one we're looking at? Individually, individually?
16, 20.
Here, what I'm gonna do here is, just so you can see, so this is gonna be yours, this is the one you're filling out, right, so your name's gonna go
Right.
here. And then what I'm gonna do, this is the evaluator. You can see how each score.
Now, Cheryl, are you gonna add scores in? Is that what you're gonna do? Did you,
I don't know, because I don't wanna keep everybody here,
alright,
but I had visioned that this would be a discussion, and then maybe put it on the days.
so,
That's one. It's okay.
we're at a 6, so.
All right, so,
Three,
So you're gonna
3, 6,
so
10,
I do, Jim,
16, 20.
Yep, so you're gonna be the evaluator.
Yeah.
Okay. And these are the his goals.
yeah,
And you need copies of
6,
those.
10, 13, 16.
Okay, so then you decide No, yours, this is Lisa said, you know, he made significant progress, or something. Yours is blank, and so you'll determine, yeah, so you'll fill all this in.
Okay.
But here's, it just is giving you cheat sheets as to what enter. The pink is what you're responsible for. This is what you should enter, these items on these pages. Okay, those are the two four of those.
Okay.
And then you're right. And then here, these are the focus indicators, so this is just like a cheat sheet of what you put here. Talking about your progress, so she did a really good job.
Okay.
And then we'll do this, and
So rankings, 6, 10, 19. It's gonna take me a minute to do the math on this, so.
take your time. Oh, here, and don't forget, like, if you wanna do comments, you can make sure you do that there.
6, 10, 16.
You're not obligated, but if you give exemplary needs improvement or unsatisfactory, you actually are obligated.
6, 9, 14.
So did you say about, said somebody was, said, well, I have to give a comment as to what?
Yeah, or needs improvement, or,
And so it's just-
yeah, so proficient, you're.
Nudge, nudge.
No, you can write as much as you want.
Just figuring out where it is.
But here, so yours here,
That's right there.
yeah, so you'll just do, so there's the goals, you'll just add one more, there's another district.
First thing.
Goal. Two, okay. So you'll just mark the same thing here. Okay, just
Is
because,
that just for John or is,
yeah, this is just for him, yeah.
that's what I was even there?
Well, this one is because there was MTSS here. No, this one was, no, there was, one was the district, oh, one was on the website, and one was, MTSS, yeah, that's right. So, so for instance, this is, I'll just write it in here, that's fine.
Okay.
And then, so, yeah, so then we'll, and then, yeah, yeah. I each of them, so like here, yeah, so, yeah, headings are there. But just, you can use these as a guide.
Thank you.
Yeah,
These all done here?
so, the, yeah, Lisa, and then you have a rich and but it's not nice to read the, you know, everything's comments, but we're gonna talk about everything that is contained in each one of the evaluations. Because usually things like you start with, wait. And then you have these in the other packets, and you have high school budget.
That's right.
Do you have copies of all the tasks? And a principal being the red box,
Yeah.
teaching. And because there's a few really helpful pieces of information. Well, help God, because I know you write all this stuff. There's 4 or 5 pieces of information that give you the focus on the areas and how it'll tell you, and see this is all the function.
Where is all that?
Must be your pile.
Okay, so, I'm not doing anything with these two, right?
Nope, they're just for your reference. All of these are just for your reference.
Okay.
But we're gonna review and talk about everybody.
Okay, so,
back, so I've now taken everybody's scores and I've averaged them across each of these. Let me just go back, just real quick, I just want to check Sean's. I think. I'm just rounding to the nearest tenth decimal point, right? Alright, so if we go to page 1 of the overall evaluation. So if we look at standard 1, which is instructional leadership, we have an average score of 3.3. If we go to management and operations, we have, actually, all 4 of these average out to 3.3. If we look at the overall summative rating, we have a summative rating of 3.7. And we can decide what we're gonna do with the numbers. The performance goals, I don't know, cause I mean, we only have 4 people that filled it out. I think the numbers are skewed a little bit. I think we can talk about that. But I thought John's summary did a pretty nice job of sort of outlining what he met and what he didn't meet.
Yes.
So I think the report that we submit should probably mirror what he had submitted to us. Cause he's basically like, hey, listen, here's the goal. I set the goal from 42 to 50%. I didn't get there,
Right.
but we made some progress. We went from 42 to 45. Right. So, made some progress, but we didn't get there. So I think John's did a pretty good job of that. If we move to the standards, standard 1, instructional leadership, curriculum, average 3.2, instruction 3.3, assessment 3.2, evaluation 3, data-informed decision-making 3.3, and then overall student learning.
There was a rating.
Yeah, and then overall rating was 3.3.
And this is on.
It's on standard 1.
on standard one.
Standard
One's a
2,
Neighborhood?
if we look at average rankings,
Oh, you're helping
average
with
ratings
cheese?
for environment,
This is the
3.3.
kind that I have cheese, I have other one too.
human resource management and development,
This is
3.2,
It's pepperoni and.
scheduling, management information systems, 3.0, law, ethics and policies, 3.5, fiscal systems, 3.2, and then an overall ranking of 3.2.
Those my meat lovers?
No,
No. Dairy meat lovers, I have cheese, Mediterranean. Mediterranean's cheese is better though. No, I don't like
Standard
that.
3,
Alternative lovers.
and again, these are average of the scores of the 6 respondents. Engagement 3.2, sharing responsibility 3.3, communication 3.2, family concerns 3.2, overall 3.3. And what I'm gonna do is, when we're done, Aaron, sorry, when we're done, what I'm gonna do is I'll submit this
Oh, okay.
as one of the,
As one of the,
as one of the pieces so that people will.
We'll be able to see.
They can see the map.
And do you want me to put it as an agenda, like in the drive with everybody?
I would,
Thursday?
just to,
Okay.
yeah, just so that people can see how we compile the scores.
She was like, this takes others.
And then if we go to standard 4, professional culture, commitment to high standards, 3.2. Cultural proficiency, 3.3. Communication, 3.5. Continuous learning, 3.5. Shared vision, 3.2. Managing conflict, 3.2, and then an overall ranking of 3.3. Okay.
I'm looking at it for the meeting on Thursday.
So then we can do is, we can go through the comments and use that as kind of a, what we've done in the past is we've looked at the comments and then try to draw what we see as similar themes in the comments that people have submitted. Cheryl, you can just add your commentary in, you know, as we go through. So the first one is my review. Tremendous amount of organization and personal initiative in his first 2 years. Some of the limitations seen since you started can be largely traced back to systemic personnel issues, an affliction all too common in a superintendent's inaugural term. Previous experience is apparent with the maturity of your approach to situations, celebrate thoughtfulness, and the time that thoughtfulness takes sometimes comes across as disinterest. That being said, do not undervalue your opinion when it comes to your beliefs in education administration. People sometimes need to be told what they do, told what they need to do, and do not know, told what they do and do not know. And as the educational leader of the district, you should be comfortable providing that direction of feedback. Your collaboration with the school committee should be applauded as you understand the value of this relationship in running a district. Communication is improving, but requires continued monitoring as you move ahead. So basically, the idea is, the themes that I took out of this, when I did the overall review, is, you know, there's always, when you come into a district, I mean, you're dealt the cards that you're given, right? And so as you spend the first couple of years in your district, there is a certain amount of staffing change, a certain amount of reorganization within the district, personnel come, personnel leave, and so that, some of the stumbling blocks that you have in your first couple of years is just that, it's the systemic issues dealing with, you know, those cards that you were initially dealt. John is incredibly thoughtful, like, he takes things very, you know, very much in his head, and, you know, he definitely takes a lot of time and care when he makes a decision. He doesn't snap out with a quick judgment. It's, the one thing I caution him on is that the time that it takes, sometimes, you know, not responding right away, kind of, you know, it may come across as being, well, I'm not really interested. And I know that that's not the case, but, you know, the perceptions can be that way. The biggest thing that I see with John is John has 11 years as a superintendent. That is, I mean, that's the most experience that you're gonna get. I mean, somebody that has more from time to time, but with 11 years of experience, you know, I would encourage him to use that experience and parlay that into, you know, more of an assertive stance on issues within the district. Things that, you know, things that he feels strongly about, and understanding that, you know, the years that he spent in education, especially as an administrator, they are valuable. And then John has definitely mastered being a collaborative member with the school committee. I mean, there's no question about it. And any district, and I would say that I'm looking at Hampshire Regional, because Hampshire just hired Vito Perrone, who was the superintendent that ran into all that trouble in East Hampton. And I think Vito understands very clearly from, I don't know him, but I know people that do know him, and understand very clearly that the number one job of the superintendent is to make sure that they can work collaboratively with the school committee. Because if you have, if you have opposition at that level, it's gonna be very difficult to get anything done. I think he appreciates that. Communication, we've had some communication issues, the busing, things like that, but there's always room for improvement. So that was what I had to say about that. And then, Michelle, yours is up. You didn't put any.
No, I skipped a comment on that one.
Okay. Alright. So then if we move to Sean. Sean, I believe and have often said, if I genetically engineered the perfect superintendent, John would still be better than whatever I designed. He sees the big picture, knows how to influence his team to achieve the desired result. His knowledge is always at his fingertips. He's seemingly always calm and in control. John makes everyone around him better. He's a true leader and an expert in public K-12 education, including special ed. Next is Lisa, didn't put anything in some of the comments. Next is Rich. Based on my interactions with Superintendent Provost at various school committee meetings and reading his communication, something with community, I feel his performance is on point. He's always quick to respond to community concerns. He's always there at school and community events. His insight on various issues at school committee meetings is truly exemplary. I know that his top agenda is simply to provide the best education for all of our students. I'm overwhelmed by the number of issues that are constantly being added to his plate and how he just calmly deals with them all. And then we have Mike. In my experience thus far, I found Dr. Provost to be extremely knowledgeable and experienced. He appears to inspire and lead by example. His positive attitude and reputation also clearly extend beyond our school district, as evidenced by the quality of the applicants he has attracted for the recently vacant leadership in the school district. I respect the organized and thoughtful manner he approaches the goals of the school district, such as the long-range strategic plan. I look forward to continuing to work with him. And that is it for overall comments. So I think some of the overall themes, I think John comes across as being very knowledgeable. He is knowledgeable. He does certainly have a calmness about him, and is, never seems. I've never seen him frazzled. Never seen him get his feathers ruffled. And bringing that into a school district it's a big plus. And and they've mentioned I know Sean mentioned his interaction with school committees and understanding the importance of that. So.
I have thoughtful, intentional, collaborative, experienced, calm, and he inspires and leads by example.
Yeah.
Some of the themes from everything that you read that I took.
Yes, and in terms of guidance, because a review, right? So we want to be able to provide some guidance. I think that I did spend a good deal of time when I did this. And I do believe, and I don't know how you guys feel, but I think John can be a little bit more outspoken and, to say, like, John, what do you think? Well, I think this, and, if, part of that might be just sort of acclimating to the waters of the district and not coming across as being, this is the way I want to do it. So I don't know, that would be the one guidance that I would give him, and that, and the communication issue. I know that's been that was an issue, but again, working on that, and I think sometimes it's a fine line to walk between somebody who is communicative versus somebody who's badgering. And I certainly don't want him to, I don't want him to cross over that line, but, I also want to make sure that, that the community sees how engaged he is. We do, we see it every meeting, we see it every time we see him, every time we talk to him. But the community may not necessarily see that, so when there's, you know, when there's a problem with the bus, right, you know, the community wants to know that the superintendent is there. And, you know, being the CEO of the district, you know, as we like to say, you know what rolls uphill, you know, so when something goes right, you know, then you can claim the accolades. Something goes wrong, you have to bear the responsibility.
I would add that, John thoroughness is something that really struck me today, because I read through all his writings, and he doesn't leave a dot after the I untouched. He is so thorough in the way he thinks out problems, and I really appreciated that piece, because probably like you guys, I get his messages on if the bus is late, or the bus is broken down, or the police are here, hurry, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But he's not rough, you're right. But he also, I've watched him pretty clearly. He has an ability to be calm in a storm of just working his tail off.
Almost chaos.
Yeah, just working his
Chaos.
tail.
Yep.
And that's very rare.
Well, I think it speaks to experience. That's the bottom line. I think it speaks to experience. I think it speaks to, somebody who has, been sitting in the cockpit for a long time, and, if you got an engine that's flaming, no problem. Shut off the engine, put it into a slip, put out the flames, you're good. And I think that's John's approach to the superintendency. And, he has realistic views, but at the same time, has an aspirational side to him. So, I think that as a superintendent, I would always err on the side doing if you do an evaluation on somebody and you say exemplary, you're kind of saying, okay, there's no more room for improvement, which, as you're looking at the perfect person. And I don't think John would necessarily expect that. And, as school committee members, one of our primary roles is to evaluate and find ways that, how can we get more juice out of him, right? How can we squeeze a little bit more juice out of the lemon? And, he's, I mean, to call him a lemon, but, he is a valuable asset to the district. And so, giving him guidance, because one of the things that John does not have is the experience of living in these two communities. And so that's some of the guidance that we can give him in terms of being able to navigate his course as a superintendent in this district, is to help him understand the communities a little bit better. And that falls on the school committee more so than on him, and I know he's open to that.
And, I was going through a lot of the things that John has put together for us since 2022. And it seemed to me that those were all things like the equity audit. And that's a perfect example of how we got bogged down and couldn't really get it over the finish line. And there's examples like that all the time, if you go through all the work he's done, that he's a closer.
Yeah, I don't know how I don't know if he sleeps.
I don't know, but
I don't know, just the preparation, just the documents, the summary documents that he gives us before school committee meetings are, it's kind of like, okay, sports fans, here's the, this is the scorecard, So if you're a Rays fan, you're gonna look at the last minute listings and, see if there's been any rider changes, who's gonna be lining up at the gate. So the preparation that he does for meetings is impressive, and the preparation that he does for even the subcommittee meetings, like
He's
policy.
very methodical.
Yeah, policy,
Everything he
policy is, I can see where policy would be, if there wasn't a lot of preparation done on the, you know, sort of in the background, it would be like a manifest failure. But, you know, we've managed to corral we literally went through all of the changes that MASC had required. We've never done that. We've never accomplished that goal. So the fact that we were able to do that is a testament, not only to the effort that we put in, the effort that John put in, because John is, you know, basically every policy is basically like, okay, there's just some minor changes here, blah, 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 blah. If there's anything substantial, this is a substantial change to the policy, like, you know, so.
And I do think he has partnered well with Mike, because Mike keeps it moving in that committee.
Yeah, yeah, and it's.
What I've seen from John is that he will kind of test the temperature of the room. I know there was one policy that was really giving us trouble, and finally, I forget who said that this is the way it's gonna be. And John got up and he stretched, and he turned a little, and he sat down. And I knew it was like, he did not want that to be what happened. But he is a process guy, and he knows that his role isn't to do that.
Anything else we wanna do about summative evaluations? Are you gonna create the
Whoever,
final?
I can.
Okay. And then we can just zip it to us, and then we'll just look it over and,
Perfect.
okay, so, as far as the performance goals, what I would do is I would probably refer back to John's own document. I
Mhm.
think John's document is pretty much a perfect,
Yes.
but it's a perfect self-reflection
Yeah.
of, you know, and a realistic
Mhm.
you know, sort of self-assessment. So if we move on to instructional leadership, curriculum, instruction, assessment, evaluation, data-informed decision-making, and student learning. So we have, data-informed decision-making it's extremely valuable. I think we talk about it sort of in the abstract, but in reality, decision-making using data is extremely important. And, you know, I know that he's gone through, a lot in terms of the state, you know, sort of the disaggregated data that he's presented at school committee meetings, which is extremely helpful. You know, it really does sort of break things down. You know, there are some areas though where we don't do that, you know, and like if we're gonna be making decisions, and I'll put, you know, strategic planning, you know, when we look at school configuration, what did the data tell us? What did it, and I bring this to you, and I bring this, you know, not because we're having a strategic planning meeting, but I bring this to say, what did the data tell us about transitions? What did the data tell us? Because the data are not positive. They don't support an increasing number of transitions for students, especially in the primary grades. Those are major disruptors. And so as we look at grade configuration, as we move into the strategic plan, and how we're going to administer education to our students in both towns, I think it's a big piece. And I think it's a big piece where we really haven't spent a ton of time looking at data-informed decision-making, but it is important because again, you know, if we're gonna stress it as being our North Star, then it would seem kind of foolish to take probably one of the most major undertakings in education in this district in the last 50 years, and, you know, just kind of throw it at a whim and say, well, you know, this is what we're gonna do, and, you know, we don't have any data to back it up, and so that was my comment for that. And then Michelle, yours. This is, Michelle, the other one. Yeah, okay. Michelle, John consistently demonstrates a thorough approach to analyzing and integrating data-driven decisions. His commitment to grounding all actions in solid evidence has improved our educational strategies and outcomes. This approach ensures that instructional methods are tailored to meet students' needs, resources are allocated appropriately, and interventions are both timely and targeted. This will result in better student engagement, higher achievement levels, and overall improved success. Yeah. So, and we've done a ton, I mean,
Exactly.
it's a, I mean, I'm not saying that he doesn't do it, I mean, it's, you know, that it's a major piece of how he, you know, how he comes to, you know, comes to make decisions on what we're doing, so.
Right.
All right, next we have Sean's. John is not only an expert in K-12 education, but he is a master at communicating this to his team. He makes those around him better. And then go to Lisa.
Also, like, he shares the data, but he also can substantiate it, or he's delivering it. He's not talking about, I mean, he can talk about, you know, something that he came across, like, or a study from like 50 years ago, but he can also find data, recent data that is.
Yeah, and he's not
Yes.
locked into.
Yes.
Not locked into a specific mode of thinking. It's definitely malleable. Lisa, I don't have any comments for standard one. Rich, given my limited interaction with Superintendent Provost, my ratings are based on the data provided by the Superintendent at meetings and on the artifacts provided by him. He certainly seems to have been proficient in all areas of his standard and most likely was exemplary in many of the indicators. So, and just to kind of give context to what Rich is saying here, the way that he organized his artifacts was just, I mean, it's just so nice. I mean, it's basically like,
Made it easy.
yeah, it's basically like, okay, here's standard one, and here's my artifacts to back it up, you know, and it's just, everything was in a folder, everything was neat, everything was very organized, and pointed. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't sort of artifact central, it was, you know, and it's almost like, I can see it in a way where you're making your case, you know, it's like proving a case in court, where you're saying, okay, here's my evidence, so
Right.
I'm saying that this is what I'm gaming for, and these are the documents that have to back it up.
He's very intentional. He didn't just give us a barrage of information that was just like, hey, you
Dig through
decipher
this,
this and
right,
figure
yeah.
out what's gonna work,
Yeah.
you know? What's gonna stick.
And then, Mike, over the year, I've seen several measures presented that have documented improvement in student performance over this short time. Dr. Provost has been with us, I look forward to hopefully observing this trend continue. So yeah, I would say, a lot of what was talked about is, you know, I think everybody really kind of focused on data-informed decision-making. You know, the other areas of instructional leadership, you know, when we look at what he's trying to do with MTSS, I think that's a huge piece, you know, and you know, what's funny is, I remember when I started, and, oh my God, Marty was here, Marty O'Shea, and I remember, you know, there was efforts to get MTSS up and moving even back then. Yep, so if you go back and you look at the minutes to the meetings from 2015, 2016, you'll actually see that there were efforts to, you know, there was efforts to get that, you know, up and running, and I think they had made some strides to do it, and then, you know, we had sort of that intervening period where, you know, Al came in, and then the lawsuit, and then everything kind of went sideways, and then it really went sideways with the pandemic. And then once we got back, I was grateful to know that that was something that was being brought to the fore, because I think that was a big piece that really needed to be filled, as we have, you know, there's a lot of kids who are straddling that line between, you know, partially meeting and mostly meeting. And, you know, if you can, you can move a proportion of those kids across that line, and you know, the MCAS, you can say what you want about it, you know, when we talk about standardized testing, I hate the term standardized testing, because testing is standardized. That's why you have a test, right? Everybody takes the same test, otherwise if you're gonna test kids on just their areas of strength, then, you know, you don't really have an assessment of overall knowledge. But the MCAS, it does give you, it's a snapshot, it's one, but just like the BAS, just like any other assessment that we do, it gives you a snapshot into, you know, where our kids are in terms of learning. And so, you know, it's not necessarily a bad thing to aspire to say, look, we're gonna move these kids, we're gonna take these cohort of kids, how best do we do that? And, you know, providing those levels of support where you have a kid who may have pretty good mastery in, let's say, 75% of subject matter, but, you know, they're having problems in one specific area, being able to target your intervention to where they need assistance is huge. And in, you know, in the day and age of education where it is and the limited funds that we have, sometimes it can be difficult. And so I think it's a Herculean undertaking to incorporate that, but I also think that it's probably one of the single most effective strategies that we're gonna have if we want to improve student performance across the board.
Well, I think too that John has done a Herculean job again by getting all of the right people, the people that need to be doing the teaching and the jobs. Basically, what you were saying, I'm sorry, I'm kind of out of it today.
That's okay. If it comes back, it is just something. All right, so you got a pretty good idea on
I think so.
standard
So,
one.
yep,
So, like, we spent a lot of time in decision making, you know, data-informed decision making. But, you know, if we look at the under indicators in the standard, I think, you know, it's kind of hard. Like in some areas, like we do evaluations. Like I'm just finishing up with standard one evaluations. You know, it's kind of hard. Like we don't see that firsthand, so it's a little bit. It's a little bit difficult for us to provide an evaluation, you know, based on, you know, direct observation. But, yeah, so I think that pretty much sums it up. Alright, so moving on to standard 2, which is management operations. So this is environment, human resources management and development, scheduling and management information systems, law, ethics and policies, and fiscal systems. And so when we look at the overall for management and operations, so the comments that I wrote was basically it's one of the more challenging jobs for any superintendent is operations management. And it requires ongoing discussions with building leaders, continue to identify needs within the district. Budget concerns are always vexing, but sticking to your position is admirable, especially in the face of ongoing fiscal pushback. And so I think John, you know, when we look at management and operations, I tend to focus on the fiscal systems primarily, just because, you know, John has a very keen eye to understand, like, you know, dollars equal education. And, you know, he wasn't afraid to say to those who were opposing him, to say, listen, you know, if we do this, this is what we're gonna lose. And I think he did a very nice job of sort of outlining that to FinCom and to advisory, to let them know, like, you know, this will impact education, this will impact learning. And then in terms of human resource management, I mean, he's definitely brought in some good people, which is, you know, I think the mark of a good leader is being able to bring people in, and not just people who you can push around. John brings in people who, you know, the old adage is that when you own a company, you hire smart people so they can tell you how to run your company, not so you can hire them and then tell them what to do. So I think John provides that latitude. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the sort of the collaborative work with Aaron on, you know, on budgeting. I think, you know, I think that's it's a very nice symbiotic relationship.
He works collaboratively and respectfully with his team.
Yeah.
And I think that he respects and acknowledges and allows people to do their job, and you trust them, and I think that that's not something that every leader does, or does well. So I think that is certainly a strength of his.
It's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to do as a supervisor, basically give people the rope. All right.
And I think he knows the people he's worked with, and I think as he goes forward in our district, there'll be more people coming over like Josh, that will give us some new blood.
And Michelle, your comments, John's comprehensive understanding of state and federal laws, adherence to school committee policies and ethical standards not only mitigates potential legal risk, but also fosters an environment where all stakeholders feel secure, supported, and valued. Through his effective implementation of school committee policies, John promotes consistency and transparency in decision-making. This ensures fairness and builds trust among stakeholders, enhancing confidence in the district's operations. Fully agree. Fully agree. And that, again, it speaks to experience, right? It speaks to 11 years in the district, you know, there's no room for cowboys, you know, I don't care how big your hat is. All right. John is not the driver, sorry, Sandra. John is not the driver of HR for the district, but his influence has drawn top caliber educators to our district. There are some in the district that were not hired while John was here that need help and redirection. It'll be interesting to see how he handles this. I think that utilizing existing systems or finding new ones would benefit John in his HWRSD journey. That's an interesting. I don't know if I would put those more under instructional leadership. Some of the district that were not hired while John was here, that need have a redirection. So, I don't know if he's talking about educators or,
Yeah.
he's talking about educators or administrators. If it's administrators, then, yeah, I mean, that's a, you know, that's a, I think that's a, you know, that's sort of a CEO level issue. I think it speaks a little bit,
It's like speaking literally. So,
yeah.
figuratively. You get a specific thought in mind when you wrote that.
Yeah, I think that utilizing existing systems or finding new ones would benefit John as his WRSD journey. Not sure, we can ask about it, Sean, in the next meeting, he wants to expound upon that a little.
I think one of John's secret talents is getting people in here. And you mentioned that in the last one too. I was able to be on the search committee with Laura for the new superintendent, and I was just amazed at how he worked with various people in that job, because he didn't do the budget end. That was a town thing, and the town, Northampton's town could be tricky, and everybody loved him there. They found that he was helpful, not only helpful, he led the show. He just, I think anywhere John would be, he would lead the show. Without fanfare and without a lot of, pat me on the back kind of thing, he would lead the show.
Yeah. Lisa did not leave any comments. Rich's was a cut and paste, so it was exactly the same, given my limited interaction. So, and then Mike, my rating here is based largely on my experience with Dr. Provost working on the policy subcommittee. His comments on recommended changes from the MSC to policy were both consistently thoughtful, helpful, and on target. While I was a novice at school policies, Dr. Provost was very clearly very versed in school policy.
So again, speaking to his experience, knowledge, and his strong leadership qualities.
Yeah. And then for management and operations, I think what Sean was getting at was basically, sort of, always sort of continued thoughts on redirection, like where are we headed with administrative teams, not just within the district office, but also building leadership, and, where do we see our district going with the leadership that we have in the buildings. So I think that, that is an area that, even with John's experience, again, having that sort of that building level knowledge, and sort of the ongoing reassessments of where we are in the district, and we do it student to student, we do it classroom to classroom, and we should do it school to school.
So we provide this piece.
Yeah. And, so then we're gonna go to standard 3, which is family and community engagement. Right. Alright. So my comments were, this is an area where increasing community involvement can be both a blessing and a curse. Take the time to consider your sources of information and trust but verify. Ongoing communication is always appreciated, as no issue worth working on is not worth reporting. Your communication with the school committee with regards to meetings is exemplary. Also, your work behind the scenes when it comes to policy should also be lauded. So this gets back to, there's a lot of experience, but when you move into, if you don't live in the communities, sometimes it's hard. So, when you have sources of information, it's always nice to, to hear new voices, but you always want to make sure that, you're getting accurate information. You don't want to, you have one person tell you something, okay, you definitely put it in there. What does the record show? What do we have to, what do we have to back that up? Is it one person's opinion? Is it one person's observation? Is it, or is it something that really did occur? So, and that is a challenge. I would say that, more so than any other in terms of community engagement is, you gotta be able to have a little bit of a filter. And be able to focus on, not only the stories that you hear, but also what does the record show? Because there's some things that happen that you can have they do this experiments all the time, right? You can have an event happen, you interview 3 people who witnessed the event, and you have 3 different accounts, right? So that was my caution to him with community engagement. Trust but verify.
It goes back to, data and evidence and, making informed decisions based on evidence.
Yep.
So it's actually right in his wheelhouse.
Exactly.
That's good.
Exactly. And then Michelle. John consistently prioritizes time and responsiveness of families and addresses their concerns actively, effectively, and efficiently. So we talk about community engagement just for the public. Engagement, sharing responsibility, communication, family concerns. So, and I think those are, I think John definitely has some strengths, and again, feeds back to experience,
Yeah, it definitely has some strengths.
Sean, hiring Josh is a massive and positive step in the right direction. I've met staff that have had little interaction with John. I would like him to share himself more with the team. Overall, over time, John will have opportunities to shape his team, to better serve and collaborate more with families, and our communities.
So is he looking for, more visibility?
I think so. And I would say, I think any superintendent would benefit from that, and I don't think you could ever be too visible as a superintendent. Showing up at baseball games or at, girls lacrosse game, and I know John goes to a lot of events, And I know there are some superintendents out there, because I know some of them, and at 4:30 they're gone. And, John's definitely not that guy. His predecessor was certainly around. I mean, having a cot in your office where you would sleep, yeah.
Sign.
So, I'm not suggesting that, he'd buy a futon, but I think, but I would say that I did. It's not an unhelpful suggestion. And visibility is important. Visibility in the classroom. I know he's in classrooms. I know he's around. So, that is, I think, as a sort of a guide for any superintendent. It would be visible. Be in the present. Rich's comments, again, were just copy and pasted. And then Mike, sometimes as a leader you are challenged with opportunities to either rise or fall. Regrettably this year we had a rare challenge, a bus fire. Scary event for the families, but all the children were safe, a major victory. Despite the positive outcome of the event, Dr. Pose and his team identified opportunities for improvement to be better prepared for the next incident, which included improved communication to impacted student families, communication with the head of the collaborative at a public meeting on bus maintenance, and a change to the school bus fire drill procedures. So, and a great example of leadership is, with that, it's that after action, right? So even if things were done right, some things were still done wrong, right? There's no such thing as a perfect drill. There's always going to be areas that you can improve. It might be, 10 seconds in response time.
Yeah.
It could be, there's always that, and there's always that. And again, I think it's a challenge, and it's a little bit different for John, simply because, coming from a municipality to a regional district, you're now dealing with a bus company. So you're now dealing with a completely separate corporation that is contracted with the school district to provide transportation. And so, whereas in a municipality, your town owns, has much more control over the bus line. So, I think that it's laudable for him to continue that dialogue with them. That was, it was a very unfortunate incident, one that I think was born out of the school committee meeting when we had basically a room full of people and nobody had ever even heard of a bus fire happening on a school bus. Well, it would happen to us, and there was a lot of learning that came out of that. And a lot of people were mad, and I don't blame them. It's their children, right? And there's a bus fire and you're seeing pictures on social media of bus number whatever going up in flames, thinking to yourself, that's my kid's bus, how come I didn't get a phone call? So, you know, and it's just, but it's one of those things that, you know, it's like practicing for an emergencies in an office. You don't know what they're gonna entail, and so it's, you know, it creates some imaginative thinking, but I thought that his response to it, it was great. Number one, he took responsibility, which it wasn't pointing fingers, it was basically, nope. And the sign of a great leader is somebody that does not pass the buck. You know, it's, no, this is my job. And, you know, that, I think went a long ways with parents. I know when we met, because we met at TWB that night, and those parents were there, and John was very clear, this is in my wheelhouse, like, I'm the guy, which, you know, it was, I thought that was a great move, and then the after-action steps I thought were very appropriate.
So for this, it prioritizes communication, I'll expand on that, but then continues to look for opportunities for growth and takes responsibility.
Yep.
And then the guidance pieces were, you know, increased visibility in the community, and then also just being wary of the advice that you receive and just focusing on data and evidence.
Yep. And then finally, we have professional culture. My comments, professional culture is always evolving. You'll need to continually assess your supporting players in order to ensure that it evolves in a way that is consistent with your vision. Watch for those around you who may not have the same outcomes in mind. And this is a warning that I would give to anybody in any position of authority is that, you know, you wanna make sure that everybody's sort of facing the same direction. And in a school district, it's hard, there's a lot of players. And there's a lot of players who are, you know, how should I say, working towards the same professional goals, working in the same direction. So, you know, it's important that lines of communication remain open and understanding that that as you are creating your vision within the district, that you have buy-in from your supporting players. And that is, you know, I think that's crucial. So having a group surrounding you who understands. So if ever John were to become paralyzed and put in a wheelchair, his team would still know which direction to move him. Not saying that would happen, but giving an analogous example. So I think that
Paints a picture.
it does, but it creates it, right. So what's that vision, right? So all of a sudden John gets a little bit lost, and no, I mean, you've got people around him to say, you know, nope, we're turning in this direction. And John's also, he also has that ability to lead, you know, because he is so knowledgeable, because he is so thoughtful. He never comes across as rash, he never comes across as reactionary. He's always in control, and, you know, and I think that's a great asset for any leader to have. It inspires confidence. A team will work better if they know that their leadership is solid, and they know that they've got somebody who is advising them, but at the same time protecting them. And I think that he does a nice job of doing that. And again, just putting it out there to understand that, you know, that it's always a reassessment. It's always a reassessment to make sure that, you know, everybody still has that shared vision, so that you don't get partially down and all of a sudden, you know, one person's pushing the wheelchair in one direction and one person's pushing back in another direction. And then Michelle, her comments. John's strengths line is ability to create a culture of continuous improvement, effectively use data, model best practices, and promote a shared commitment to high standards. These qualities are essential for driving positive change and achieving improved outcomes for all students. Yeah, and the continuous improvement part, I think that's a common theme, right? So being able to constantly reassess where you are, you know.
Yeah, his target's always moving, which is nice. It's not just focus on what you decided on day one and that's where we're going, regardless of whether.
Well, and
the
it has to move. I mean, it should always move, and it shouldn't be like
Right.
helter skelter. But there's always those small corrections, right?
Yeah.
So we're heading in this direction. All of a sudden, we're gonna have to veer a little bit this way to be
Right.
able to manage this, which wasn't really part of what I initially observed. So, and again, just sound like a broken record, but it sounds like it's just experience.
Right. Well, what's nice is, it sounds like through each one of these, standards, the themes are the same. They're coming out the same. We're all speaking to different examples of, his leadership qualities, but the themes are part of each one of our statements. Which is nice.
Sean's comment, I would recommend that John widens his definition of his stakeholders. These are people, some but not many, that have yet to touch his positivity and professionalism. John is a master of high standards and embodies them in all that he does. When we hired him, we got all we needed, plus a lot of things that we didn't know that we needed, desperately and truly needed. Lisa, I think any comments? And then Rich was copy and paste. And then Mike, Dr. Provost has proved to be a strong communicator during the brief time I had to work with him thus far, responsive and open to listening to everyone's ideas.
Cheryl, is there anything to add to that?
Um,
Okay, sorry, I didn't know, not to put you on the spot, I didn't know. Okay, strong leadership qualities, maintains control and calm, inspiring confidence, continuous improvement, committed to high standards, responsive and listens, and then just making sure that he garners supports from those around him who share the same vision. That was the takeaway from that.
All right.
Was that the last one?
That was the last one, yes.
Great.
So now, if we go back to our scores, now that we've done the comments, any more questions on the comments, Cheryl? Did you have anything else that you wanted to add on any one of those?
Either one of those, no, I think we covered a lot of territory, but there were common themes, and I think, when this comes out, and he has, an ability to read all the comments, he'll see the common themes of, just strong leadership, and, really not grabbing the limelight, just wanting to do a really solid, terrific job,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody around the table can take ownership of it.
So if we look at, and I'm now gonna do just sort of a summary, of goals. Let me just see one thing here, I just wanna make sure that. So I wanna make sure that with the goals, because there's actually the ranking up above, and that may have been. Yeah, see, for some reason, I don't know why, so if you look at my sheet,
Mhm.
it doesn't have, that's why
Oh, for the goals, right?
see the progress towards goals?
Yes,
So
there's
if you-
only 3.
There's only 3 on my sheet, and I think there's only 3 on Sean's sheet.
So I added on mine, because I
Yeah.
knew that there was, he had the 1 and 2, so I added the second.
Yeah.
um,
That's why I did it, I just did it on the
Yeah.
second page.
Yeah,
So,
We're talking about this,
yes, yeah.
so I would say, if we go to, step 1, assessing progress towards goals, because we had some filled out, we only had 4 completes. So I probably would refer to John's own document. I would
Okay.
just say, that John's document provides, I think, a pretty clear picture of, where he met his goals.
Right,
The only area, well, no, because he was 4.2, so,
so for
You
instance, for
basically-
MCAS, he wrote, to meet this goal, we will have to attain greater equity of achievement among groups who are currently underachieving in math.
So Bill, by adding that document, his document,
I would, yes.
Thursday?
I think that's, yeah, because I think that there was a little bit of, pressing back to student goals.
So yeah, the student learning goal.
Michelle had 4. You had 4. Yeah, Sean had 3. And then Lisa had 4. But it's hard because it's just district improvement goal 1, goal 2. Student learning goal, professional practice, district goal 1, district goal 2, alright.
talking
Yeah.
about this right here.
Rich's only has
Yeah, his,
3.
we're talking about the,
Yeah.
yeah,
And that's why I like this one.
Mhm.
Watch this.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I think you did,
this was because John had 2 improvement goals, district improvement goals, so he had MTSS as 1, and then the website as the second.
Yeah.
so it's this one,
You know, I
Michelle,
think
self-assessment.
since
that's
this is-
one.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that I was hoping to remember to say, is the website was huge.
Mhm.
And I hope this is still being filmed, because we've been wanting a website that really was a website that was useful for parents,
Oh,
family,
no.
children to get into and use.
No
And
question.
like many of the things that John makes happen, he takes almost no credit for it, you know?
The website
It's
is, yeah,
refreshing.
the website is, I mean, it's a vast improvement,
Mhm.
vast improvement. Again, not perfect, right? There's always ways to make it better. But, in terms of, I think that a lot of it is the development of the website. I also think that, the advances in technology. I mean, from where we were in 2020 to where we are now is, it is literally it's from the Stone Age to the modern era. In terms of having, access to information and access to meetings, almost real time.
It is, it
It's
is.
real time. That's outstanding,
Great.
and that, it's sort of embracing that technology, and, you know, that's for the community's good, you know? So there are people that want to attend meetings, there are people that, but they may not be able to, you know,
Right.
to find childcare, they may not be able to, you know, to leave their house, because, you know, the cable guy's coming or whatever. But, you know, having the technology piece is massive. And then being able to organize it and have it be searchable within the website.
Right, it makes sense, and it's current, it's up to date.
It goes, it's an automatic,
Right,
you know, there's
Yes.
no, it used to be 24, 48 hours.
right.
Well, we used to have, when I first started, public access television recordings would have to be processed, and then they would have to be uploaded, and it would take weeks. It would take weeks, so you would literally be, you would be looking at a meeting that was just finally uploaded, but it was 3 weeks old. You know, so. Anyways, all right, so if we go to the overall rankings, if we do just the summative evaluation, so if we go to, we already talked about the progress towards goals, we use John's document. If we assess the performance standards, John scores the average for standard 1, instructional leadership 3.5. Management and operations 3.3, family and community engagement 3.3, and professional culture 3.3. However, if we look at the overall summative performance ranking, John has a 3.7. So if I was going to put down his overall performance for instructional leadership, 3.5 is sort of proficient plus.
Right.
I don't know, 3.7 to me is on the, it's exemplary.
Yeah,
So I probably would say his overall ranking would be exemplary.
Me too.
And I would probably say instructional leadership, I would, 3.5, so I would say we can,
I would keep it at proficient though.
with an asterisk,
Yes.
yeah, an asterisk to say, this is borderline.
Yes.
3.7 is
Yes.
on its way to exemplary. So, are we okay with that? Okay. And then if we go through the standards, the average, if we look at the overall rankings, he's basically 3.2, 3.3, 3.2, 3.3, 3.3. So he is proficient, and, you know, with a trend,
Sure.
up, right?
Right.
So he's not, it's not 2.7. I think it's important to understand, that's why I want this document to be
Yes.
shown, to be able to understand that, you know, this isn't, we didn't round up a 2.7
Right.
to a
Right.
3.0.
It's
We
a solid,
Yeah, it's a solid, you know,
Proficient.
solid proficiency,
Yeah.
you know, with,
That's it.
and during your first cycle, your first superintendent cycle, evaluation cycle.
Yep.
So this is like a baseline, when you think about it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. So, yeah. I don't think there's anything else, if there's anything else we want to add. I would say closing remarks is, thank you guys very much for helping out with this. Cheryl, I know you've got, if you have other comments, I probably would just, I don't know. I don't know if I would, no. I'm just worried about open meeting law. I don't want to,
Right.
because those comments could be construed as deliberation. So I would say, if there's any other comments, we can hang around for a couple minutes and we just kind of peruse through and see if there's anything else you want to add. So we can add that tonight. And then Michelle,
I'll send something tomorrow evening.
yes, and then the document itself, you will have all of the information that we listed here.
Yep.
You know, typically what we've done in evaluations past, if you remember, is, you know, we basically just roll through each standard, and, you know, so we roll through each of the goals and then each one of the standards,
Okay.
and basically just a little summary paragraph about each one. It's
Okay.
not, you know, it's, you know, to provide feedback and guidance.
Okay.
I think is probably the best way to put it.
I'm happy to write it, I'm happy to have you lead it if you want.
Whatever you like, yeah, I'll be happy to.
Okay.
Sure. Anything else? We're okay with this? We're okay with how we did this?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect, and then we went over what's gonna happen in the meeting, so that's great.
Yeah, okay. Motion to adjourn,
So moved,
second? Roll call?
Roll call, Bill?
Yes.
Sure.
yes.
Myself, we are adjourned 8:47. Thank you.
Thank you guys very much
Yeah.
for sticking it out, and I'm sorry I'm late. I was,
Well, it's all good.
what's that?
Oh, you're
Well, you know,
taking care of people's
That's what it is.